Hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Pantaloons podcast. My name is Tanya. I'm your holistic cancer wellness guide. And today we have with us special guest Robin Humphreys of Phoenix Heart Healing. Welcome, Robin. How are you today?
Hi, Tanya. I'm good, and I'm really glad to be here with you.
I can't wait for you to tell the audience what it is that you do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a transformational energy healing guide, and I work primarily with women who experience anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and really support them to shift those experiences into lasting calm, connection, and confidence instead. And I really work with a very holistic and varied set of practices that I customize to each of my one-on-one clients because there's no one size fits all solution when it comes to healing. And it's so important for me to have a wide variety of tools so that I can help to find things that fit really well for each individual person on their journey. Yeah.
That makes total sense to me because I also believe in mind, body, spirit healing. So
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about what you call energy work. Is it Reiki? Is it something else? Is it Reiki and other things? Is it
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I am a Reiki practitioner, although that's a relatively recent modality. My initial training over 10 years ago now was in something called Shama Soma. And so if you break that down, Shama it basically is referring to shamanic orientation. So really believing in the life force of all things and being oriented to the energies of Earth and cosmos and everything in between. And then Soma is related to the body. It's the Greek word for body. So that training really consisted of a whole huge array of different things. So that's really my foundation is in guided meditation, in conscious breath work, in hypnotherapeutic journeying, in hands-on energy healing, in distance energy healing, things like chakra reading and chakra alignment, and like the list goes on and on. And then over the years, I've added to that as well. So I'm also certified in EFT or emotional freedom technique. Most people might know it as tapping, where you're doing the
tapping?
tapping on the body. Also something called compassion key, which is a really powerful process. And then most recently, level 1 Reiki certification as well. Yeah, so it's a lot.
Fantastic. It is a lot. It's absolutely a lot. I have trained in some of similar modalities and some
Yeah.
different ones, and I find that a lot of people that are interested in the holistic philosophy go to extraordinary measures to learn all kinds of things um, to help in their wellness journey.
Mhm.
It's so powerful.
It is. It is. And it's funny, I'll just share for me, like I've really had to stop myself from just continuing to add modalities. You know, it's like I'm in a place right now where I'm really going deeper with the tools that I have and the things that I know versus going more broad by adding in more. And I think that's really important. I mean, I feel like we all have can get like the shiny object syndrome, right? Ooh, that's shiny too, like or a
I'm
squirrel or
feeling
whatever.
called out. Feeling very called out right here because I know
Yeah.
exactly how it is.
Yep.
What, a month ago? About a month ago, I got my a Reiki master certification. So I get it.
That's right.
Like,
Congrats. Yeah.
and I recently learned about the EFT stuff, and I think that's
Mhm.
fantastic. And, you
Yeah.
know, as somebody who does this, having a lot of different tools in your toolbox is key because as you said earlier, everybody has a different formula to their wellness.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I'm really orienting to now as well within the last probably couple years or so really is getting my own support as I am doing my, my healing practice for others. And something that I actually had to work through in order to finally start my full-time brick and mortar, as well as online business, as a healer, is I had to reconcile with the fact that I was not going to be fully healed before I could start my business. I had this funny idea in my mind that I had to like work through all my stuff and get to, some golden place that really doesn't exist. um, at least not that quickly, and so I really had to work through um, this idea that it would have to be like all my own stuff first, and then I would be ready. And so what I'm doing now, since I opened my business full time a couple of years ago, is making sure that I'm getting support along the way, both in my business, from the business end of things, and for myself and my own personal healing and expansion and growth. And that's like feeling like a really well-rounded approach, and that I would recommend to anyone and everyone. you know yeah.
When you're walking the path, it's easier to just reach behind you to the person that's two steps behind you to teach them what you just learned than to be 3 miles away to teach them the step that you learned 3 miles ago. So
Mhm.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I think all of us take our time with that decision and come to the realization at some point that it's just much easier to teach the thing you just learned in your
Yeah.
excitement because while you're teaching it, you're reinforcing it with yourself.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
find that like not just with healing, but like with anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, right. And being able to stay in the place of kind of the beginner's mind, I find is really important. I've done various kinds of teaching over the course of my life, and staying in that energy of just what it is like to learn and receive and integrate new information and new ways of being, um, is super important. And especially for the work that I'm doing, is like ultimately I'm really supporting people to work through and heal pretty deep trauma. Often it's from this lifetime, but then many times it can go further back into previous lifetimes as well, and the things that carry forward. And um, so, but that's not where I'm starting when I'm getting started working with a client. It's like we got to attend to the nervous system first and do the breathing techniques and do some meditations and cultivate the self connection first, so that there's room in the nervous system to then start to go deeper into the bigger layers underneath, right?
What do you mean you don't start by breaking the generational curses and then work backwards? That they've
Yeah,
been around for generations for a reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
usually at
Well,
least a few sessions in.
right. Yeah, 10 minutes or so, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just give them time to get comfortable at least first, yeah.
Yeah. The more I talk with other wellness practitioners, the more I think about the generational curses and how they resonate in our bodies because
Yeah,
we do hold our ancestry. Like, when you think about the fact that when a child is born, when a girl child is born, she already has all of her eggs. So like her mother had like so like that kind of thing is like when you
yep.
consider the science behind it, it's very, very interesting. So the your presence was there during their trauma. So it
Yep.
totally makes sense that it gets carried forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. There's studies in epigenetics, of the grandchildren and great grandchildren, for example, of victims of the Holocaust who have changes in their DNA that can be tracked, from,
That's
yeah,
that's powerful.
yeah. And it's not just, of course, then there's like, yeah, there's the nature and the nurture component when it comes to generational traumas. The what's carrying through biologically, genetically, and then what comes through behaviorally, and then those kinds of patterns as well. And then it's just all like, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
yeah,
super interesting.
yeah,
I would love if you could send me the information on that. I'd like to read into that
sure,
further. That
sure,
is
yeah,
very interesting.
yeah,
So I'm sure it goes for any group that has had mass trauma inflicted upon them.
yeah, right. And that's, yeah, there's the mass, example like that. And then there's the things that happen individually within families that still carries down, and can then become patterns if somebody doesn't come in as the cycle breaker. And this, I'm glad we're having this part of the conversation, because it's really like a big part of what I do. Um, and my focus in my own healing personally, as well as what I'm really facilitating for my clients, is looking at the bigger picture and the bigger scope on the timeline, of what can be really shifted and transformed. And it's I've got a daughter who's now just about to turn 5 soon, and so in these last 5 years, or really 6, because it was kind of starting to marinate during my pregnancies, is really like well, first of all, I was aware that becoming a mom was going to put me face to face with the things that I hadn't healed yet, and particularly like family related stuff, right? um, as we
Yes.
have that gift. and um, and that I knew that I really wanted to do everything in my power not to further the transgenerational transmission of unhealthy attachment patterns for my daughter and for future generations. Just super important.
It is, and I do feel that there is a global conscious shifting going on right now,
Yeah,
and a lot of societal generational patterns are being disrupted for the good. And
yeah.
I'm talking about specifically creepy Uncle Joe or whatever
Mhm.
his name was in
Sure,
your family that
sure.
wanted to hug the children too much, and
Mhm.
giving children the right to say no, I don't want you to touch me, and
Mhm.
I shouldn't have to hug you, and giving them that bodily autonomy
Yeah.
at a young age so that they can set up boundaries from the age of when they can start speaking, right? Like
Yeah.
that is super important
Mhm.
because when I talk to people, 4 out of 5 women that I talk to have
Mhm.
been assaulted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I can personally say the first time I was assaulted, I was 5.
Mm. Yeah.
There's that is an issue, right? And
It really is.
you
Yeah.
know, it is. And these patterns need to be disrupted.
Mhm.
The way
Mhm.
society looks upon all of this kind of stuff is shifting. It is because
Mhm.
women
Mhm.
as a whole are just done. We're just done with a lot of the negative, crappy patterns that have been tolerated for the last however many years.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, the statistics are really unfortunate. And I'm sorry about your experiences also.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Like I feel it I do feel it shifting as well. And it's going to take, I think, concerted small efforts,
From lots
consistent
of people.
from
Yep.
lots of people within their own families, within their own workplaces, within, their circles and scopes of daily existence to really start to activate our voices, and recognize the power that we have in our voices to say no, to take a stand for things when they're obviously wrong or when there's injustice taking place, and to also feel supported in that, because for like there's plenty of people, and I would say probably moms in particular, who may not have stood up to that creepy uncle or whoever, in the family at family gatherings, because they would be afraid of the repercussions, the social
Yeah.
repercussions within their families. And so, having just really orienting to truth and integrity, and believing that if somebody speaks up about something like that, then we need to believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. In my case, it wasn't a family member. It was a
Yeah.
neighbor. But
Yeah.
like talking about stuff like this and understanding that trauma affects you and then coming to the conclusion, like I believe that that trauma stored in my uterus and
Mhm.
eventually transmuted into cancer.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for the studies to start
Mm.
backing that up because
Yeah. Yeah.
disease is a dis-ease. And if
Right.
there's something wrong with the spirit or the mind because of the trauma, the
Mhm.
body will eventually reflect it.
Yeah. Yeah. It all gets stored in the body. Um, and I just want to like name this too, just for anybody who's watching, because sometimes trauma can feel like a heavy word, or it might have kind of a lot of stigma around it for some people. But that, from my perspective and learning from, different really pioneers in trauma healing, the trauma is really an event or an experience or a set of experiences in which we don't have the support or internal resources to process the feelings around what's happening or what has happened. And so what happens is like a little kind of part of us almost like splits off and stays in that place, however old we were with whatever was happening then. And then we become more fragmented because of it. And then, we can get triggered, in a way that feels disproportionate by things that we might feel should have zero, relationship to that thing that happened way back then. And so trauma healing from my perspective is all about, really honoring the body, getting really slow and in tune with the sensations of the body. I've been studying, something called somatic experiencing, which is really powerful for that, just like slowing down with ourselves, which most of us don't really know how to do much anymore. um, and then giving time and energy and attention to the wounded younger parts, kind of really giving them what they needed and didn't have at the time, so that ultimately and eventually integration can happen. And then that's when people start to feel like more whole, more settled and at home in themselves, like lighter, more free, more joyful, more calm, all of these things that, most of us want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, it's a big conversation, isn't it? And it
It
really is like
it
it's in
is.
the zeitgeist, as they say right now. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work, in the individual, family, and collective, trauma healing fields right now.
Yes. And like I can feel the weight of this conversation. It's just,
Mm,
it's a lot. And
yeah.
you talk about slowing down and just sitting with yourself. This weekend I went to a celebration of life for somebody that I considered my sister.
Mm,
And I had a nice time. It was lovely to visit with people, but I was having problems.
mm,
I couldn't find words, common words. I like they were completely gone out of my brain, and I
mm,
felt overwhelmed and kind of stupid. And I know that like I'm not dumb. It was just me trying to grieve without crying all over the place. And so
mm,
yesterday I just took the day for myself and sort of wandered around the house and didn't do a lot of anything. And I just took the time to process
mm.
and do some grieving. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's immensely important to take the time for yourself when you feel overwhelmed. Because if
Absolutely.
you don't make the time, your body will make the time for you at the most inconvenient of times.
Yep. Oh, yes.
Much better for you to schedule it in advance
Yeah.
because your body will take way longer than you want it to.
Yeah, there's that quote that if you don't make room for your wellness, you will be forced to make room for your illness, right? It's like,
Yes.
yeah, yep.
Yep.
It's so true. I've been there. I've had to have those harsh reminders of like, nope, can't burn the candle at both ends. Yeah, yeah. And
I
I
was
just wanted
out of
to go ahead.
I was out of work for over a year with the cancer journey.
Sure, right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna just go back to something that you had said a minute ago, um, about feeling like that unhealed, unresolved, assault experience that you had, or experiences, um, how that quite possibly, likely, translated into cancer later. And, so I'm coming from the framework of energetics where it's like, oh yes, I'm totally on board with you as far as that goes. And one thing that I try to tell people, because I have worked with a couple of people with cancer, is that number one, like it's not your fault that this happened to you, right? And it's interesting to try to hold both at the same time. It's like it's not your fault. um, this is something that your body is doing. um, and also there's a place in which there can be an opportunity for responsibility and for really like starting to honor and attune to your body in a different way, so that the energy is being cleared and the likelihood of successful treatment goes up and the likelihood of remission goes up and all of that too. It's like both and, right?
Yes, it was not my fault, but I
Yeah,
can take responsibility for my healing.
yeah,
And they are
yeah,
together but separate. Like
yeah,
nothing I did caused that.
right,
I understand that.
yeah, yeah,
But it could be very difficult to get to a point where you realize that you're accountable for yourself and your own healing. And
yeah,
sometimes that can take a very long time to get to a place. And sometimes you don't even realize that there was a trauma from a thing. You don't
right,
even know it was there.
yeah,
And so you don't understand some of your behaviors and your responses to, as you said earlier, like unrelated things. And you don't understand why you're
yeah,
having this rage moment over peanut
Mhm.
butter. Like, like you don't
Right.
understand the correlation at all.
Yeah.
And trying to put that puzzle together when you're blindfolded and have a battery operated flashlight that only works half the time. Like,
Right. Right. This is
trying to
good.
figure it out. Like,
Yeah. Good little analogy going on here. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And that's why, it's really, really hard to do that kind of healing by ourselves. I tried it for a long time. I only got, I made progress, but when I really started to lean into getting consistent support for myself and realize that, like, yes, I too am worthy of support. And, it doesn't say anything like sort of bad about me that I continue to need to be able to lean on others, while I'm also stepping more and more into my own leadership. It's like they're not mutually exclusive.
the stigma that our society has on mental health
Yeah,
and needing somebody to talk to sometimes, just to talk to somebody who has an unbiased opinion about what's going on. It's healthcare. And
yeah.
I'm glad that we're starting to get somewhere with that, but I don't think it's enough. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
it,
Yeah, we got a ways to go. Yeah.
if we started to talk about healthcare, we'll be here a long time because I have a
Yeah.
lot to unpack with that.
I know.
And it's a conversation that we'll keep having. It shouldn't be
Yeah,
tied to your employment. It shouldn't
yeah,
it shouldn't
yeah.
cost us what it costs us. There's
Mhm.
just so many
Yep,
things that need to be fixed. It shouldn't
absolutely.
focus on symptoms and not actually what the issue is. It should
Yep,
be east meets west. It should be
yeah,
integrative with
yeah.
the holistic and the Chinese medicine. And
Mhm.
yes, I believe we need the allopathic medicine. I do believe that we need
Yeah.
surgeries. Like, we can't cure everything kumbaya. Like, I understand that. Like,
I'm with you.
but
Yeah,
I can have chemotherapy and radiation and aromatherapy and Reiki and using plant medicine as medicine. Like, our
yeah.
food is medicine. what
Mhm,
what we eat, what we choose to eat,
yeah,
directly affects how our body operates.
absolutely. Yep, yeah. It's all like, yeah, there's no I mean, yeah, it's just there's all these are all parts of the system, right? And when one thing is off balance, like, and especially if multiple things are out of balance, under nurtured, et cetera, then yeah, there's going to be um, fallout from that. Symptoms will start to come through, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I just wanted to share too that I've done a little bit of work. Well, I used to work in a medical offices for about 8 years in my 20s, in an administrative part. And what really stood out to me, and always has, also in my own experiences in medical appointments, is that when there's real, like, care and compassion and empathy, um, that so much more is possible. And I also recognize, and I'm talking about from the practitioners and even from the staff, like when you walk you know, into an office for the first time, how do they greet you? Right? Like, that it all kind of goes a long way. And
Yes.
yeah, and I also know that there's a lot of burnout in the healthcare field, like, just systemically across the board. Um, that, and so I really, really want to see trainings that take place that are, start to become part of, the accreditation um, programs, right? That include like how to have healthy boundaries, how to take care of yourself, how to regulate your nervous system, and all of these things, so that the people who are in the place of providing those kinds of like types of care for us aren't at their end, at the end of their rope, at their wits' end, like, completely
Yeah.
unhealthy themselves. It just, yeah, it kind of is mind-boggling sometimes how, why are doctors and nurses in hospitals on 14-hour shifts, like, or
It's
however long. I mean,
unreasonable.
even longer potentially for a lot of them. And yeah, it just anyway, I
That's
know.
unreasonable.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a positive experience.
Mm,
Well, after a mammo, I ended up with what could potentially present as maybe some cancer.
mm,
And my gynecologist at the time was like, okay, so how do we keep you sane until you get to meet with an oncologist? So
yeah.
she called the oncologist's office to make sure that my appointment wasn't 3 months out because of
Mhm.
my cancer history. And then she started talking to me about guided meditation
Mm.
and alternative stuff. And then she says to me, she goes, "Do you know the goddess Durga?" Like that a
Wow.
practitioner could talk like it was
Wow.
amazing. I felt
That's
very
incredible.
supported. Right, exactly, right? And then she told me the story of Durga, which I think is fascinating. People should just go ahead and look that up.
I'm gonna look it
And,
up after this.
and
Wow.
just and this was in the US, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely
Mm.
loved it. And I was very upset when she had to move to Florida with her husband because he
Aw,
got a
yeah.
promotion or whatever, right? Like I was like, where are you
Right.
going? You
Right.
can't leave me. Oh,
Yeah. Well, yes, big yes to more practitioners like that, you
yes.
know? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting just kind of um like I bring a lot of different things into the work that I do, and a lot of it could be potentially considered spiritual, but it also doesn't have to be, like I work with a number of people who are very religious, and I live in Americus, Georgia, which is in the deep South, and so um a good number of my one-on-one clients are um you know various different religions, and um but like, for me to suggest something like that, it's like I'm not asking you to convert. I'm not asking you to like even, you know, change anything about the way that you're thinking, but just like making invitations to expand perspectives, and to like you might just find a resource that's really supportive, that doesn't have to, conflict with your belief system. And it's really neat to see and experience how those women really kind of feel like more freedom, um, because they're anchored in this strong belief system that they have, and that they follow, and that feels really supportive for them. And then they're learning all of these other different things that some people might consider to be like, oh, like no, mutually exclusive, like not okay. And yet it's like it's all supporting the same thing, like the person's well-being, and therefore the well-being of the world, right?
I do. Well, first of all, I do think that religion and spirituality are separate. They're two different things.
Yeah.
For
Yep.
me, religion involves a lot of dogma, and I think
Sure.
that gets in the way.
Yeah.
And I believe that as long as you have a relationship with God, the spaghetti monster, the elephant, like whatever your communication is with your higher power
Yeah. Yeah.
is your communication with your higher power, and nobody has a right to tell you if that's right or wrong. That is
Yeah.
between you and that entity, whatever you call it, them, they, whatever. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
honestly think that we are all touching the same being, and
Hmm.
because we are small and only have the capacity to touch this one part,
Mm.
we only see it's like eight blind guys touching an elephant, and they're all got a different part of it, and they're describing different things, and everybody thinks it's a different thing, but it's not.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
It's the same
Right.
source. It's God's
Yeah.
source, however you want to identify it. And by helping someone get well, how is that a bad thing? I don't, that makes no sense to me. So,
Right.
some
Right.
people don't want to talk to me because
Yeah. Yeah.
I can be a
Same here.
little
It's okay.
soapboxy.
I heard somebody say once, they just put it very concisely, and this has always stuck with me, is there are many paths to God. And, and I could also add, like, there are many names for God, that's just like, could be, feels sort of stigmatized for some people, but um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, right. There are many paths. Everybody has their very own path.
yeah,
So there are that many paths.
yep. Yeah, what's the population of the world? That's how many there are.
Exactly. Plus all the people that came before and the ones that will come.
Right,
It
exactly. It's infinite.
There are that many paths.
Yeah, yeah,
And I just think it's kind of arrogant for me to tell somebody else how to walk their path. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something I try to avoid.
Same. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's a whole different discussion, right? We could spend all day talking about that too. There's so many
Yeah.
wonderful discussions,
Mm.
but yeah, so I do want to ask you if you have a gift for the audience, Robin.
I do indeed. Yeah, so I have a lovely resource that I put together, and it's called 3 Tips to Reduce Anxiety in 2 minutes or Less. And it's you just go to phoenixhearthealing.org, and it's right there. You just put your name in, your email in, click the download button, and then you'll go straight to it. And it's just a one-page thing, so you can print it out, and it doesn't have a bunch of like crazy colors on it and stuff, so you won't use a bunch of ink in your printer. um, and the idea is that you want to like have it on your fridge, keep it in your car, in your purse, wherever, so that if you're having a moment of overwhelm, or you even panic, if you're just feeling kind of like you're getting toward anxiety, you've got 3 really great practices on there that you can use to help regulate your nervous system, bring yourself back down a little bit, and then probably feel calmer and more grounded and more ready to, you know, tackle whatever might be next. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Thank you. And I will make sure
Mhm.
to put it in the show notes in case anybody missed that.
Right.
So it'll
Right.
be right there for them. I do want to thank you, Robin, for joining us today.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, it's been great. And just one little thing that I kind of wanted to leave people off with is that if there's one thing that you can really do for yourself, no matter where you are in your healing journey and on your path, is just to connect with your breath. The breath is the gateway to life, and it is the gateway to wellness and self connection. And so you don't even have to do anything fancy, just every now and then, like stop and notice what it feels like to be living in a body that is breathing. And there's, of course, so much more that you can do with breath beyond that. But just, if you're needing to give yourself some additional attention, just pay attention to your breath. It'll go a long way.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. Just sit there and breathe for a few minutes.
Yeah,
It's transformative.
it
I want
is.
to thank everybody for watching, whether you're watching now or later or repeating. We appreciate you. Have a great day.